Ahoy, everyone, and welcome to San Francisco Small Business Week 2021. My name is David Eugene Perry, and I'm your host for today's InspireSF, the Roots for Recovery. In addition to being on the Board of Directors and Executive Committee for the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, I am their Small Business Chair, which means I spend my time thinking about how other fellow small business people like myself can get from what I call the great pause of COVID into the great recovery of 2021. So this event is not only for you, it's for me and for everyone else for whom small business is a passion and a career. You know, as we all know, these virtual events look a bit different, and we are all crossing our fingers that we get to come back together in person again next May for even more amazing live events, programs, and networking opportunities. That said, this year we have a tremendous lineup for you to bring the most relevant and helpful resources and insights available from top Bay Area experts. This week is a chance for entrepreneurs and existing small businesses to come together virtually, but nonetheless as a community, and for Bay Area residents to be reminded of the diverse business ecosystem that is so crucial to the vibrance and vibrancy of our avenues and neighborhoods. As a community, we must work together to support small businesses with collaboration, cooperation, and intentional engagement to support the entrepreneurial spirit and ensure a broad and equitable economic recovery. The information and topics we will discuss this week are just a piece of the ecosystem of support and resources available in San Francisco. A team of representatives from different organizations historically comes together to bring you a vast offering of resources during Small Business Week, so that you can learn more about how some of these organizations can help by visiting sfsmallbusinessweek.com. Now, this week would not be possible without a lot of work behind the scenes and the generous support from our sponsors, including our presenting sponsor, Bank of America. I would like to give a warm thank you to Gioia McCarthy, President, Bank of America, San Francisco East Bay. We thank you for your continued support of San Francisco Small Business Week, of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, and especially of our small business community. So now, let's hear from Gioia.
Hello, and welcome to Small Business Week. I'm Gioia McCarthy, President of Bank of America San Francisco and East Bay, and we're thrilled to be sponsoring this year's event. 2020 has been a challenging year for so many of us, and small businesses have faced a unique obstacle because of the pandemic. Entrepreneurs have had to adapt their business operations, from enhancing their sanitation and cleaning practices to adjusting their operating hours and moving to remote work environments, all the while remaining flexible in the face of uncertainty. Still, small business owners are today and have always been resilient. They're finding creative ways to reinvent and repurpose their businesses while supporting and serving their local communities. At Bank of America, we recently announced a $1.25 billion five-year commitment to help local communities address economic and racial inequality accelerated by the global pandemic. In practice, this will include philanthropy, sustainable finance through lending and investing, CDFI and MDI partnerships, development of financing solutions for small businesses, and so much more. We recently committed $200 million from that pledge to direct equity investments in Black and Hispanic Latino-owned businesses to help supply growth capital, as well as to invest substantially in programs to create future entrepreneurs. I encourage entrepreneurs to connect with small business bankers at Bank of America for the best tools to support their day-to-day operations, as well as insight on which local business organizations and affiliate groups to engage with for support. Our small business bankers can also help connect business owners who may not qualify for traditional loan products to our extensive network of CDFI partners nationwide. Bank of America is the largest investor in CDFIs in the United States, with more than $1.6 billion in loans and investments with over 250 CDFIs in support for disadvantaged communities. Just last month, we announced that we would be supporting the Black Economic Alliance Foundation on their first major initiative, which is working with Spelman College and Morehouse College to create the Center for Black Entrepreneurship. The center aims to grow the pipeline of Black business talent and innovation by eliminating the access barrier between Black entrepreneurs, professional investors, and business builders by leveraging education, mentorship, and access to capital. The center is being created with the help of a 2-year, $10 million grant from Bank of America. At Bank of America, we remain committed to small business, just as APG&E did after the 1906 earthquake. We have a rich history in helping small business owners find the solutions they need to grow and prosper, and our dedication continues today. Continue to stay safe, and we hope you enjoy Small Business Week.
With an SBA loan from Bank of America, you can help keep your small business moving. As a Small Business Administration preferred lender, we know how important it is for your business to reach that next milestone. Our Sba Backed Loans can help you expand a business, purchase or improve commercial real estate, fund new inventory, or purchase new equipment. Whether you need $25,000 or $5 million, SBA loans offer easier qualification, longer terms, and lower down payments on fixed assets than most standard loans. Our knowledgeable small business specialists are available to help determine if an SBA loan is right for you and how much you may need. It's important to find new ways to grow your business and stay one step ahead of the competition. Keep thinking bigger with an SBA loan from Bank of America. Talk with a small business specialist about SBA loans today.
And a special thank you again to our presenting sponsor, Bank of America. I would also like to thank all of our sponsors of San Francisco Small Business Week. Literally, we couldn't do it without you. The Office of Workforce and Economic Development, Bill.com, Facebook, Recology, Spin, AT&T, and a very special shout out to BB Events and Becca Bloom, who helped make this event possible and make us all look and sound so fantastic. Having worked with special events promoters over the years, I can tell you BB Events and Becca Bloom are the best, virtually or in person. And I know we're looking forward to being in a room with BB Events and Becca Bloom again very soon. Thank you all for your continued support. Now, without further ado, I would like to welcome Rodney Fong, President and CEO of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce. Rodney formerly served as co-chair of San Francisco's COVID-19 Economic Recovery Task Force, president for both the San Francisco Planning Commission and the Port Commission, chair of the SF Travel Association, and on numerous boards, including the San Francisco Marin Food Bank and Fisherman's Wharf Community Benefit District. The Chamber is lucky to have Rodney as our leader, especially now during such an uncertain year. Thank you, Rodney, for all your hard work on behalf of the business community. And now, our leader and my good friend for many years, over to you, Rodney Fong.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rodney Fong, President and CEO of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce and a small business owner myself. I'm excited to kick off today the 17th annual San Francisco Small Business Week. The last 14 months have been challenging for all of us, especially the small business community. And this couldn't be a better chance for us to bring entrepreneurs together, small businesses together, merchant corridors together, to remind us of the important ecosystem that small businesses play for San Francisco. I want to encourage everyone to visit sfsmallbusinessweek.com to find out more information about all the programming that's happening this week, all of the other contributions that many businesses have provided to Small Business Week. And so I want to encourage everyone to support our businesses locally. It's said over and over, but you got to shop locally. We've got to support our small businesses as we all recover better together in San Francisco.
Thank you so much, Rodney. It's always a pleasure working with you and hearing your words of wisdom and advice and pragmatic encouragement. And now it is my great honor to introduce someone that I have known personally for many years and am very proud to call more than a colleague, but our mayor, with a message for the small business community of San Francisco. Please welcome the Honorable Mayor of the City and County of San Francisco, Mayor London N. Breed.
Hi, I'm Mayor London Breed. I am so excited to celebrate Small Business Week. This year, it is even more important that we step up and support our small businesses. That is why we launched the Small Business 30-Day Challenge, encouraging people to not just shop local this week, but throughout the month of May. Whether it's getting the basics from your nearest corner store, buying birthday or holiday gifts from a local retail store, or eating dinner at one of our many world-class local restaurants, especially with our amazing Shared Spaces program. I hope that you will join me to shop local and support our small businesses, not just this week, but throughout the year. Thank you, and enjoy Small Business Week in San Francisco.
Madam Mayor, thank you very much for those encouraging words and for all of the work you have done to help small business this last year and to keep us healthy so small business and our economy can recover. You know, Small Business Week is an opportunity to celebrate and recognize small businesses. Here's a partner spotlight sponsored by Bank of America as we learn more about one of our very own amazing and resilient small businesses, Buena Vista. Let's take a look.
Small businesses are a large part of why people love San Francisco. It gives them personality, supports communities, and are the beating heartbeats that give the city life. From the corner grocer to the neighborhood bar, we have seen how important they are to making life in the city by the Bay thrive. And lately, they've needed help. Here's just one story in which Bank of America has been there.
Myself, I've been in the hotel restaurant business since I went to Cornell, the hotel restaurant school. And so anyway, I've been founded Victoria Station originally with a couple of guys, and then we did California cafes. January 10th, 2001 is when we opened, or when I took over the Buena Vista. And it's been going good until pandemic time. Now I have to rephrase this little spiel to say that, yes, we've had some downtimes. So we were able to take the parking spaces, 4 parking spaces in front of the restaurant, put a fence around it, and then rented a tent and put the tent over it. And then we looked at that and said that Redding isn't going to cut it. It's going to be here a long time. So we ended up buying the tent. So now we own a tent. It's kind of been a bit of a lifesaver, because otherwise, without having stand-up drinking in the Buena Vista, we don't have enough seats to make it work. Other than that, no, we had PPP funds in 1 and 2, and without that, we would have been borderline, because we tried to keep as many of our employees as possible, and then we had to let people go, and the ones we let go, we had a lot of PTO and a lot of accrued vacation, et cetera, so we had a pretty good ticket to let them go. So now, of course, we're bringing them back slowly, and most of them want to return. Other than that, we've honed in on our to-go operation, which is now pretty smooth. We can do a lot of to-goes real fast, and people like them, and that works. So we have that down. Join me and help support small businesses.
Wow, wasn't that fantastic? I remember moving to San Francisco in 1986. One of my very first stops was for an Irish coffee at the Buena Vista. Make sure it's on your stop as well. And now I'm pleased to introduce our keynote for the program, Lawanda Dickerson, the owner and operator of U3 Fit, located in San Francisco's Bayview District. Lawanda has operated her business since 2016 and opened a brick and mortar location in 2018. She is certified in multiple health and wellness disciplines, including sports medicine, personal training, fitness nutrition. She's a weight loss specialist and a corrective exercise specialist. Additionally, Lawanda is a fitness instructor and wellness coach at the YMCA Bayview and is a motivational and public speaker. Lawanda, take it away.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Chamber of Commerce, for inviting me to San Francisco Small Business Week. I'm very excited to be here and to inspire, to be able to share with you my experience and the things that I have experienced being a small business here in San Francisco. My name is Lawanda, as you have heard, and I am the proud owner of U3 Fit. And U3 Fit is meaning you having 3 parts to you: your body, soul, purpose, working together to accomplish any health and fitness goal. And I felt like it was important for you to hear a little bit of my story of how I even got into health and fitness. It was very interesting looking at my family's history. I looked at my mom's side of the family, my dad's side of the family. One day we were at a family reunion, and then we looked out at my family and saw that health was a major issue. And ironically enough, I had gone to the doctor, and the doctor had said to me, Lawanda, if you don't get your cholesterol down, it looks like we're going to have to put you on medication. And for some people, it may have taken more, but for me, I was very concerned because I had my family I was looking at, and if I didn't do anything, I knew exactly where I was headed. And so as I started going on my journey, I had realized that there were so many things missing in my search in trying to find out what was going to be best for me. So then I decided at 40 years old to go back to school. And I then enrolled in the National Association of Sports Medicine and just fell in love with learning. As I began to evolve and realize there's a huge gap between Googling information as far as a meal plan and fitness and what I needed to know about myself and about my own personal journey, my body, my genetics, my DNA, all of those things. I didn't realize how significant it was. And as I began to use myself as a prototype, as I was going through school, some people will have proctors or they'll go into internships. I used my own body and my own life as for practice. Long story short, after losing 78 pounds, getting physically fit, not just physically fit physically, but emotionally fit, mentally fit, I realized I saw the gap. In the gap that I saw when talking to people in general about health and fitness is that everyone thinks that it's just one way to lose weight or one way to get healthy or one way to get fit. And that is the total opposite. And so how did this become a business for me? One day I was in my own routine of literally just sitting there doing a seated row in the gym. And I had a gentleman walk in and he said, "Who are you?" And I looked back at him thinking, "Oh, I'm me." And long story short, we started talking and he said he had gone to the doctor and the doctor said, "You need to lose weight. You got to get, you have to change your diet." But the big question that everyone asks is how. And so as I began to talk to him and he looked at me, he said, "Can you help me?" I said, "Absolutely." And from that one person asking me that question is how U3 Fit began to evolve. How did this become a business? Because I realized I found something that other people needed. Not just needed in the sense of a way for me to just make money, but it was a way for me to experience fulfillment in helping people, knowing that I had come across a solution. I have educated myself to become solution oriented to solve the long-standing issue that so many of us are having. How do I get healthy? How do I get fit? And how do I live a fulfilling life without feeling like I got to eat chicken and lettuce all day? So as I started looking into this as a business, of course, this is what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about how did I open up a business and how did and what are some of the things that I had to do to get established or to get started. And I'm going to let that segue also into, because I believe it's the same thing in needing to recover from this COVID pandemic, because it impacted everyone's business, but I think it's the same as far as getting started back again. And so when I had gotten started, of course, I did all of the legwork. You go get your business license, you go get your get registered with the city that you're in, and you do the legwork. That's easy. That's not the hard part. What I discovered in starting the business is that starting a business is not just about making money. It's not just about getting you want to do the fundamentals. You got to do that. But what I have found more than anything is that building a business is really about building people. Once you build people, the people are the ones that build your business. I realized that building people was the very key to U3 Fit, the business, and its successes that I have experienced over the last 4.5 years that I've been in business. And so how does that relate to what's going on with COVID is we had to completely shut down. Of course, with my business, I'm health and wellness and I'm hands-on. And I literally had to close my doors for weeks. And if you know anything about personal training and nutrition fitness assessments and the meal planning, all of those things, those are in person. It's an in-person business. So in closing my doors, I had to get creative real fast. I immediately reached out to all of my clients and friends and family, and I used social media to let people know that I'm still here. And I had to learn real quick technology, understanding how to work the different social medias, not just Zoom, but I mean, there's people that use Google Duo. There's some people that only use Facebook Live. There's some people that only use, so I had to become, I had to get well-versed in all of the social medias so that I would continue to be able to maintain my business. It was very challenging. I did lose clients to fear. I lost clients to the pandemic. I unfortunately lost clients to COVID. So I experienced a great loss during this time. But I am grateful to say that back to what I was saying before about your business is built on how you build people. And so what happened was people that I had been working with, it was emotionally overwhelming. I had clients who literally would Venmo me money. They did a campaign. I had people who I had been working with for years who I had helped for years, be able to reach their goal and get off medication. And it was something about when they poured in and said, we want to be a part of your recovery. That's the part I'm talking about with building people. When you build people, the people will build your business. So as I begin to grow and develop, I realized that there are a lot of building blocks that come with building a business. And although I consider myself small, my vision is very large. Being here in the Bayview, Hunters Point, I am the first of its kind to have a health and wellness business that offers the services that I offer. And I have been incredibly blessed in this community because of how I have been embraced. And building the business and in this environment had been very challenging. I'm in a male dominant field, and immediately people become either intimidated or they want to challenge me because they're thinking because I'm a woman, they're not sure how I would be able to get them to where they want to go. And I tell people all the time, you should come check me out and see and see how I work. But being in a male dominant field, I had to work through some challenges as well, because people are just, once they get familiar with what an image is to look like in a certain field, sometimes you have to push the envelope, color outside the lines, not do the norm, not do the typical things that you see, your counterparts do. And one of the things that I did is I started to tap into understanding what your purpose is alongside with your health and wellness and your fitness. Because I interestingly enough, going back to school at 40 years old, that was a challenge for me. Starting a business in the Bayview district, the first of its kind, was a challenge for me. Getting, the funding and getting the support, that wasn't the challenge. It was changing the perception of what it looks like to be serviced by someone that looks like me in this community, an African-American woman in health and wellness. You don't find that very often. So it required something more from me. It required a persistence, a determination. And it was because I knew that there were people that needed what I had. I had to be confident in what it was that I was offering and what I was servicing, because I knew that without this, we would lose people earlier than they needed to leave this earth due to simple solutions that I have found through science and through just the understanding of the way the human movement system works, and understanding our soul, which is our mind, will, emotion, intellect, and intuition, how they all needing the importance of them all working together. I have a person I love to share a little story with. And I asked her, so her name is Renee. She's here, she lives here in the community. And when I met Renee, I was working at the YMCA at the time. And she rolled in her wheelchair. And Renee was 304 pounds and had just recently had surgery. She could not get an appointment with her physical therapist. And so she was getting frustrated. She knew that some changes needed to take place. She just didn't know what she needed. So as she rolls in, she looks at me and she says, "Are you a physical trainer?" I said, "I am." She says, "I need you." And I said, "Okay." As we began to talk, I began to describe to her what it is I do. She said, "You're the one that I'm supposed to work with." And as we began to work, the doctors had already told her that she would be wheelchair bound, and she had already been wheelchair bound for 14 years. She literally had zero use of her left arm, and she had severe pronations, which meant she had severe bow leg and she could not walk. As I began to train with her, the first few weeks wasn't really physical. I did life coaching sessions with her. I needed her to believe that who she was good enough to be able to change her circumstances. And so as I began to coach her and talk to her about who she was, what she was destined for, understanding her purpose, why is she still living? Why did she survive that 16-hour surgery on her spine? Because there was a purpose for her. And as I began to talk to her about that, I started doing resistance training and started doing physical training. I started to prepare her meals. 2.5 years later, Renee is now weighing in at 170 pounds. Renee now has 30% use of that left arm. Renee is now able to walk up and down her street with her dog. And Renee is now, she has had a nonprofit organization where she's now feeding the people who used to roll her in her wheelchair. And people say, "Lawanda, oh my God, it's a miracle." Absolutely. Part of that miracle had to do with her belief and believing in what it was she was supposed to be able to do. When you think about businesses, a lot of times we like to leave that part out. We can give all the logistics of, we need a business plan. Yes, we do need a business plan. We need to know your numbers, and you need to know your accounting, and you need to have your business lined up, and you need to have all your paper. You're absolutely right. But what you need to ask yourself is, what problem are you here to solve with your business? What is it that whose lives are you supposed to change with the solutions you're bringing with your business? I believe the art of serving people has been lost somehow in this generation. And I believe it is very important that we get back, especially after this pandemic. I believe this has been an eye-opening experience for us to realize that this world is about people, how we serve people, how we treat people. Because it doesn't matter what title you have. I don't care if you're president, CEO, CFO, whatever your title. What people are going to know more about you is how you treated them. How did you impact them? That is the very way that I built my business. Yes, you need marketing. Absolutely need marketing. But I'd have to say that majority of my marketing clients came from someone going to someone and saying, "That Lawanda got me off of all of my high blood pressure medication. She got me off of all of my diabetes medication and showed me that I had a better quality of life." ahead of me. It's how we impact people. I want to encourage you as small business owners. I want to encourage you as large business owners that making something that people want to include means making a company that people wants to work for. It's creating an environment where people want to be where you are. Are you so tight and regimented that you can't hear the voice of the people that are serving you? Something needs to change. When you're thinking about how are you going to get that product out and how are you going to get that product to the masses, how do you believe that's going to happen? It's going to happen by you being able to say, or market, I have something that's going to solve your problem, that's going to bring a better quality of life to you by purchasing or having my product. So I want to encourage you all, get back to people. Get back to the importance and the quality of life that your product can bring, that your product can serve. I know for me, as far as U3 Fit is concerned, when I made the people the priority, and I began to speak to them about who they are, and I began to encourage them about what lies ahead of them, and I began to share with them about their vision, and how about this? Waking up hope, waking up dreams again, waking up visions, ideas, and thoughts that were buried because we were in such a crisis state in America. We were in the world, actually. We were in such a state of devastation. I believe that there's room for more entrepreneurs, for people who have the creative ideas. Now, let me say this. If you can't find it, create it. If you can't see it, make it. This world has not been able to capitalize on everything yet. There's something that you have, and only you have, that the world needs. That's what an entrepreneur is. So what are you going to bring to this world that we need?
Lawanda, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. We are indeed fortunate to have such a motivational figure like yourself to keep us all marching forward and exercising and serving on San Francisco's Small Business Commission. Deeply, deeply inspired. Thank you. And now we have a very important topic to dive into as a small business community. Where do we go from here? And more importantly, how do we get there? To help us dig into these questions, I would like to introduce our outstanding panelists who have joined us today for this very important and historic conversation. So now, with no further ado, I would like to introduce the panelists for InspireSF Routes to Recovery. We have Kate Sophis from San Francisco Made, Joe D'Alessandro from San Francisco Travel, Kayla Gonzalez from Bank of America, and Rodney Fong, President and CEO of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce. Rodney, take it away.
Thank you, David, for that introduction, and your remarks are absolutely spot on. San Francisco has suffered from small business closures. Up to 50% of our small business either temporarily or permanently have closed. And so being able to reopen as San Francisco is starting to reopen, tourism to bounce back is so important here, and appreciate those comments.
So let's start with a question for you, Rodney. Small businesses are critical to an equitable and broad economic recovery, something that I know you've been speaking about, well, long before COVID hit. What needs to happen to ensure that this happens? And why are small businesses such a key factor to the economic prosperity of San Francisco and the Bay Area?
Yeah, David, I think COVID-19 really exposed to us what a symbiotic relationship small business, medium-sized businesses, and large businesses play on each other, especially in a small footprint like San Francisco. The big businesses are the customers for those small businesses. The medium-sized businesses are the suppliers for those small businesses. Those small businesses in a downtown setting provide the catering, the internet service, the access, the cleaning in some cases. And so while we look at the downtown and we look at who's walking around and who we think are there coming in and out of those buildings, a lot of it is service and a lot of it is small business. And so that vibrancy, one of the things that people gravitate towards San Francisco, the street life and pedestrians on the street, the small business curio shops, the small funky little art studios that are available in the midst of downtown San Francisco. That's all the fabric of what makes the city such a great city. And so we are looking forward to bringing that back. We're looking forward to incentivizing those small businesses to continue. And then Joe will talk about the tourism piece. What a strong and important aspect for San Francisco to have that back in full force, hopefully very soon.
Great. Thank you for that, Rodney. I mean, as a longtime small business person who started my business at 18th and Castro, and now I'm in the Flood Building at the Paola Market, which is not only a center of commerce, but of tourism, I appreciate the focus this year on small business, and I know so do our other small businesses. That leads me to my next question, and our next panelist, someone who knows all about small business. People think that San Francisco produces technology and great vistas, but there's a lot of things that are made in San Francisco by small business. Kate Sothis from SF Made, what are the most important policy changes that have occurred locally and in California that will and can support our economic recovery?
Thank you for that question. The thing about local makers and manufacturers, of which San Francisco has more than 700 right now, is they are businesses. They are the supporters of livelihoods for the most diverse set of San Franciscans imaginable. And they're also a reflection, as is travel, of our culture and our ethos and our creativity as a city. When I look at some of the key policy initiatives that have come down during the pandemic, but also that I think are setting the table to recover, three things come to mind. Policies that unlock new resources for businesses, policies that during the pandemic have protected our more vulnerable small businesses in particular, and approaches to make it easier to do business and to be flexible. And I have three examples I'll offer today. The first is actually at a federal level, and I do think federal resources coming down are going to be an essential part of our economic recovery for all businesses moving forward. In particular, during the pandemic, it was resources coming from the SBA, particularly the Payroll Protection Program, the PPP program, which allowed businesses of all sizes to avail themselves of funding that did two things. It provided necessary, frankly, bridge capital into these companies who were trying to survive, in many cases, multiple shutdowns. And it did it in a way that incentivized them to retain or rehire laid off employees. So it really did double benefit. And I think you will now see with the new Recovery Act that was passed at the federal level, and potentially the infrastructure bill that's moving now through Congress, you will see additional pots of resources that it's going to be really essential for our city to plug into and really drive down to the businesses that need it most. At a state level, I think the state has played a very essential role in helping protect small businesses and their most vulnerable challenges over the course of the pandemic. In particular, commercial eviction controls that have, if nothing else, initially stemmed what could have been a horrific loss of space for our businesses at times that they could least afford to pay their rent and keep up with that. That was essential. I now think coming through the pandemic out the other end, being thoughtful at a local level around how to give companies time to start repaying some of that back rent, while also being fair to landlords, many of whom are small businesses themselves, is going to be an important sort of balancing act. And last but not least, businesses, big and small in San Francisco, feed on their nimbleness and flexibility. So I think a lot of what the city's been able to do to make it easier to get permits done, and in particular the Parklet program that have allowed restaurants, and many manufacturers actually in San Francisco are food-based businesses that both manufacture and you have restaurants as a key sort of channel to market. That Parklet program has not only allowed those businesses to have flexibility when they couldn't serve people indoors. But frankly, personally, I think it's an amazing contribution to the outdoor public life of our city. And I'm really excited that we have support to keep those in place post-pandemic.
Thank you for that. I'm glad you mentioned the Parklets program. Many people, including my husband Alfredo, have always said that San Francisco is the most European of U.S. cities. And those parklets and people out, I think it's one of the silver linings of COVID. So thanks for bringing that up. When I first came to San Francisco as a 24-year-old in 1986, my first stop was One Powell, the Bank of America Palace of Finance, where I opened my bank account. And they have helped me buy 2 homes, helped open our business, and helped us get 2 PPP loans that kept us going and helped us employing our associate Michael Mikhail this last year. So I'm delighted to welcome Kayla Gonzalez from B of A. Kayla, what makes small businesses so important to the economic health of San Francisco, and how has B of A supported small businesses over this past very difficult, unique year?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for that welcome there, David. And Palace of Finance, I think I need to take that away. That's a great introduction for such a fantastic company. But absolutely, we know small business is an absolute critical part in San Francisco. It's one of the major cities that has the highest level of revenue pre-pandemic from small businesses. So we know how important small businesses are. We know how important they will continue to be, especially knowing that California has had such an increase in small businesses that were opened in 2020, because we have all these new individuals that are now displaced from their jobs or have had to look towards different sources of income, and they've established their own businesses. So really looking at the increase of that, how we can help those clients it is critical. And for the city of San Francisco, it is truly going to mean a lot going forward to really be able to see what that looks like for the economy and really being able to see the impact that it'll have altogether, but truly will, not just in all cities, but definitely in San Francisco. As far as Bank of America and what we've done for those small businesses, Paycheck Protection Program, which you and Kate also touched on. But we really wanted to make sure that as soon as the Paycheck Protection Program was out, we were there and ready to assist our clients. So very proud that as a large financial institution, we were ready to go with a platform day one to be able to assist our small business clients, especially with this SBA, first time unprecedented program. It was all new to us. We really didn't know what to expect, what it was going to look like. So there were bumps in the road, absolutely, but it was something that we are very, very proud of, that we were able to offer to our clients so quickly. Also, the impact it's had. So as of August, Bank of America has helped the most amount of small businesses nationally to receive PPP funding. We've done over 340,000 loans being funded, the average amount being roughly 75,000. So truly reflective of the small businesses that we've been able to have an impact versus a larger dollar amount that may reflect differently depending on the size of those. So very proud of that. Our small business credit support team has worked very hard on providing payment deferral solutions to thousands of our clients, not just on the small business side, but also on the personal side, to really help with that cash flow, to really support our clients during that time. I think one other key piece that I want to mention too is that while businesses have been impacted by COVID, many in a negative manner, we also have a lot of businesses that have thrived in this environment. We have new businesses that have been established, businesses that have taken the opportunity to really differentiate what they offer and how they provide it to their clients, and certain industries that have done so well. I know construction, right? Going through a remodel, everyone looking at their home in a work from home environment, they want to do something different with the environment they're looking at. So a lot of different things have happened. So very important for us that we make sure we really listen to our clients and see how we can support them, whether it is getting through these times and helping cash flow, or even helping businesses to expand, to be able to have additional resources to support the increase or growth in business they've had.
Great, thank you for that, Kayla. A.P. Giannini, when he founded Bank of Italy in San Francisco, little did he know that Bank of America was going to help the city that knows how dig out of 2 disasters, the Great Quake of 1906 and now COVID. So thank you for that. In a very real way, B of A still is our hometown bank. For years, my landlord client and dear friend, the late Jim Flood, said that he could tell the economic health of San Francisco by looking out his window and seeing how many people were in line at the cable car turnaround. Well, not only are there not any people in line for the cable cars aren't yet running, and it really is a symbol of how devastated our hospitality and travel industry has been impacted by COVID. So my next question is for you, Joe, from San Francisco Travel. With travel as one of the hardest hit industries over the past year, this has been a huge impact, well, on small business, not just tourism. What can we expect to see from travel in the near future? And please define for me, what do you mean by near future, which seems to change day by day with COVID protocols?
Well, yes, David, and thank you for having me here today. There's no question that travel and hospitality has been impacted more negatively by this pandemic than any other industry. And it's not just in San Francisco, but it's globally. And what's important about San Francisco as a destination, that 70% of all visitors' dollars when they stay in a hotel are spent outside of the hotel. They're spent in small businesses, they're spent in restaurants and shops and retail, in all a variety of small businesses that are the same businesses that we support as locals. So it is vital for us to get those visitors back into San Francisco. It's also vital to get our employees back in our offices and out of their homes, but getting those visitors back in San Francisco is going to be really critical. What we're seeing right now is the first kind of light at the end of the tunnel that we've seen for a while. Leisure travelers are starting to come back. They're feeling comfortable, especially with people getting vaccines. However, leisure travelers are somewhat limited. They tend to come on the weekends and not so much during the week. We need to get people in San Francisco 7 days a week. So we're excited that now we're able to host small meetings again in California. And in the fall, we're going to get Moscone back open again for conventions. So short term, it's going to be a positive step. We're going to see more people coming into town for meetings, more people coming into town for visitors. It's not going to be like 2019 for a while. But in the fall is the next big step. When Moscone opens, we've got a number of conventions that have committed to San Francisco, maybe not the scale that they would have been pre-pandemic, but still it's an important start. And honestly, 2022 in terms of conventions and meetings is looking pretty positive. So we are optimistic going forward. It's going to take a lot of work. We have a lot of efforts that we're doing. We've launched Our Gate is Open marketing campaign to tell people in our region that San Francisco is open. We are going to go national with Visit California about San Francisco and California next month. And we'll continue to expand the horizons as more people get vaccinated. The desire and desirability of travel becomes more pronounced, becomes really important. I have to say, though, that surveys have been done globally and in the United States that say people have pent-up demand for travel. So we're very confident that once people feel comfortable, and safety is a primary concern, so we're going to still practice our safe distancing and mask wearing. But once people get their vaccines and are comfortable, we'll see the travel coming back to San Francisco. San Francisco remains one of the top desirable destinations in the United States.
You know, and if anecdotal information is anything, driving recently into San Francisco, the traffic says to me that we're almost back to pre-pandemic levels. And I never thought that I would be grateful to be stuck on 280, but it's a sign of our recovery. Joe, stick around because I have a follow-up, but I want to go to Rodney first. Rodney, what else besides what Joe was talking about needs to happen to foster a truly robust and sustainable small business bounce back? And then I want Joe to follow up on that.
Sure. I honestly think we have an opportunity for a small business renaissance to happen in San Francisco. And whether that is someone starting a business on their own for the first time and seeing a vacant commercial space in North Beach or wherever in our neighborhood commercial districts, a small business that's already established and expanding and thinking about a second location is really possible. So the stars have aligned, I think, for people who have that opportunity to try to want to grow in San Francisco. We have been absolutely supportive of the mayor's Small Business Recovery Act, which I think is something that the mayor and folks at City Hall have been wanting to do for a long time. And that is to ease the permit process, to make it easier for someone to expand or to open a business, for Formula Retail under certain circumstances to be able to open up in San Francisco smoothly and easily, folks to open up rooftop restaurants, bars, meeting spaces, and take advantage of the great views that we had, I think, that were really difficult to do before. So we're supportive of that. Our very large board of directors at the Chamber of Commerce nearly unanimously supported the Small Business Recovery Act. So it's a combination of a lot of different things, but to be honest, we've suffered a tremendous loss over the last year, but I think this exciting times are ahead for the small business community.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people are getting creative. As I said to someone, when the going gets COVID, San Franciscans get creative. You know, Joe, I'm trying to squelch a rumor that you actually are going to start a Portuguese-Italian food truck to kind of augment. Is there any truth to that?
Well, you know, it's a good idea. Thanks for planting that seed. I'll do some research on that.
So what else do you think we need to feed this small business bounce back?
Well, I think what Rodney said is critical. I think we have to make it easier for small businesses to grow and expand and operate in San Francisco and maybe less costly. And then we need to get people in those businesses. And I think that that's critical. I think that we as locals need to support our small businesses now more than ever. We need to keep them alive, help them to grow. Because the last thing you want when visitors come back to San Francisco is a bunch of boarded windows or closed businesses. We need to see that vibrancy of our city come back. And I'm confident it will, but it needs our support. We need to get out there and support small business. We need visitors to come in and support small business. And with the bodies on the streets and the businesses open, I think we have a very promising future for San Francisco's small business community.
Thanks so much. Kate, before I ask you this next question, I'd like you, for those people who are not familiar with SF Made, give a brief description of what SF Made does and how important it is to our ecosystem, and then answer this question: how does the San Francisco ecosystem impact small businesses?
SF Made is an almost 12-year-old initiative that started really as a grassroots movement of local manufacturers back in the last recession, which I sort of laughingly, you know, the Great Recession maybe doesn't look so great anymore compared to what we're currently living through. But we started, and I came out of a manufacturing background as a co-founder, and we started with a little group of 12 manufacturers, and it was some of the iconic manufacturers we still have, like Anchor Brewing and Timbuktu, and it was some very small, very young manufacturers that came together to say, you know, at the time, most US cities had sort of given up the ghost around thinking we could have any kind of manufacturing of any size, right? A lot of mostly offshoring had happened over decades. So as we started and as we have continued to work, we have grown into a full-fledged nonprofit, and we do three things. The first is we help provide resources, expertise, connections to manufacturers, big and small, to help them start, grow, and stay in San Francisco. The second piece, which is at the core of our nonprofit mission, is really then using the opportunity of the jobs that those companies create to provide livelihoods and pathways to employment for folks from across the city, but particularly we focus on our lower income communities, our immigrant communities, communities of formerly incarcerated, people with disabilities. The thing about making and manufacturing is it offers opportunities to get going and to earn well more than a minimum wage over time to people from all walks of life. And that remains as true now as it's ever been. And last but not least, the secret sauce I've always said around SF Made has been we partner very closely with our city in which we operate. We happen to now also operate down in San Jose and the East Bay, but San Francisco is our first and dearest home. And so we have partnered from the beginning with the mayor's office, with the planning department, with the MTA, whatever it takes to help these precious businesses stay and grow. So I think to answer your second question, for me, the key to helping manufacturers and other businesses stay here and thrive here, it's always been this sort of joint venture between those of us who are lucky enough to live here and making overt choices to support our businesses. Most San Francisco manufacturers are consumer product companies. I think the second, which relates to Joe, is helping connect our visitors, our amazing visitor spending and interest in our community to these businesses. And then last but not least, continuing to partner deeply with our city and city government to sort of what I call till the soil in which these lovely manufacturing plants can flourish. And so that means it's tax policy, it's permitting and just ease of doing business, it's tying whatever lucky resources we can avail ourselves of at the federal or state level and really targeting them into the business community. And maybe last but not least, I do believe we have an opportunity to almost rebrand who we are trying to be as a business community in San Francisco. I think there have been times when we've sort of pitted big business and small business as if they're not connected. I think we need to be the city that makes it work for business, but for businesses big and small that care about being here and that care to make deep local investments. So whether you're Bank of America, who originated here, or you're Timbuktu that's still making bike messenger bags and others still in the mission, these companies are all companies that can be passionate and reinvest in our city. And these are the kind of companies we want here.
Great, thanks so much. So when Joe needs his tchotchkes for his food truck, we'll send him to SF Made. We've got about 10 minutes left, so I just want us to be conscious of it. Rodney, just a quick follow-up to that. How does the economic ecosystem of San Francisco commerce impact small business, in your opinion? And then we'll move on to the last few questions.
Yeah, I think Kate really struck on something that, we're all, it's oversaid, we're all in this together. And from a business perspective, keeping the money and keeping the investment in San Francisco is so important. We've learned a lot of things from COVID. And I think a lot of us, it's partly to your next question, have gotten to know our neighbors even better over the last year. Whether it's in your small neighborhood coffee shop or whatever, but if we can start to stimulate with each other, work together, build a workforce program that really begins to train up San Franciscans, provide jobs for San Franciscans, employ them, I think we're going to be a better city. And I honestly think San Francisco has an opportunity to come out of this as a better city than we were before COVID.
Great, thanks so much. Kate, you and I both have something in common. We're both, in a sense, entrepreneurs. I used to say entrepreneur is Latin for someone who doesn't know any better before they start a small business, realizing you can never fire yourself, so that's the good part. But being a small business person and an entrepreneur is always a challenge. And let's be frank, in San Francisco, there are a lot of challenges to being an entrepreneur. Very quickly, what would you say specifically to entrepreneurs who are planning to open or expand right now in this not quite post-COVID environment in San Francisco?
I would say three things. The first is we have a city that not only has capacity in our government and our Office of Small Business, but we have a myriad of really high performing community nonprofits, just like SF Made. So whether you're a small food entrepreneur, we have La Cucina. If you are wanting to learn how to do your business plan and to figure out how to launch your business, we have the Renaissance Center for Entrepreneurship, which is one of the oldest in the country and has a myriad of resources. We have organizations that are very community specific, such as Chinatown Self-Help for the Elderly or Mission Economic Development. All of these organizations are there and open and ready to help serve you, the entrepreneur. So I would say plug into those. And last but not least, the majority of small businesses that I know that have stayed here, including SF Made ourselves, have figured out that the power of being here transcends our higher costs, are still, I'm sure, frustrating regulation compared to other places. But the staying power is when companies really can plug into their San Francisco-ness, whatever that means, right? Whether it's how they approach their product, how they approach their service, who their customer is, when they can plug into that and then build their business to be responsive to that, suddenly being here makes a lot more sense.
Thank you. Kayla, I think we're all tired of words like unprecedented, but of course, COVID has been an unprecedented threat to not only our health, but our economic health. The pandemic has literally been an existential threat and tragic to most small businesses. Do you see any silver linings coming out of this time?
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the comment earlier referred to around creativity. San Franciscans have absolutely taken to a new level of creativity, and especially when it comes to entrepreneurs and their businesses. So many businesses have been forced to change their operating models, how they deliver their products and services for clients, how they interact with their clients has absolutely changed. I think one of the nice parts, though, is when we think of this, and we published a 2020 Small Business Owner Report as Bank of America, doing a little bit of research. And what's exciting about San Francisco is hearing some of the positive side that entrepreneurs have taken from COVID-19 and what they've done differently to help. We have 55% of Bay Area small businesses had to reinvent themselves. And they all know that they had to reinvent themselves in order to stay in business and continue to operate. And that's actually more than double the national average. So thinking of creativity, we know that San Francisco has that, and they've done that. 89% of businesses have stayed open in some form of capacity, which again goes back to the digital piece. Digital is something that is absolutely a silver lining and is not going away. Many businesses that did not want to build in that digital component or weren't able to or didn't think they could pre-pandemic they have found a way to do it, whether it's different ordering systems, different ways of communicating with clients, the resources that are available, but digital has absolutely been a huge response for clients. And that's absolutely something that will continue. Having businesses that have had to modify how they deliver solutions, but also what solutions they provide. We have breweries or distilleries that have made hand sanitizer, right? Things that we needed that they created, and something that will continue to be a part of their operating model because they've been successful with it, and absolutely something we will continue to need. I know stay-at-home moms that have that have created masks, using their sewing skills, offering those solutions to clients because there was a need for it. So having that entrepreneurial mindset, that creativity to continue to change operating models is absolutely going to be there. And it was for the better. Offering businesses a different way to drive revenue, to have a different source of income is definitely a positive, and something that will absolutely continue, especially in San Francisco.
Great, thanks so much. So for our last question, we'll do a lightning round, just kind of like Jeopardy. I'll ask the same question of all of you, and I'll start myself. What changes which arose from the pandemic do you think will stay around? Well, what I would like to say is, since I spend a great deal of my time speaking to journalists and opening a lot of conversations with, how are you? And then getting right on to what story I want them to place for a client, I think the value of compassion and empathy will stay around. So when we say, how are you now? We really mean it, because we've all, as my husband says, not been in the same boat, but we've all been in the same storm. Joe, what changes which came out of COVID do you think will stick around?
Well, if you got to remember that on our flag and on our city seal is the Phoenix, because we always rise from disaster in San Francisco. And I think we're going to come back, as Rodney said, come back better. And as Kate mentioned, the parklets and the outdoor dining, I think one of the best things that's going to happen is we're going to become more of an outdoor city. We're going to take advantage of this incredible landscape that we have, this beautiful natural surrounding, and we're going to dine outdoor. We're going to see outdoor performing arts activities, a lot of things. So not only will we have these great indoors that we can participate in San Francisco, but we'll have these great outdoors too. And I think it's going to be a great change for San Francisco.
Kate?
I think we've spent a lot of time now, as we reimagine what we could be, thinking about our business models and how we approach business. I can also say that our businesses are thinking far more deeply now around how they diversify themselves, their workforce, and frankly, how we do an even better job as a city supporting our Black and Brown small businesses to grow with targeted loan funds and grant programs. And that's not going away. And that's a really good thing. And I think part of what Rodney said is the reimagining of what we can be. And I'm very excited about our future.
Kayla, what changes that came out of COVID are going to stick around?
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to getting back into person and outdoor dining that we talked about, but digital, going back to digital meetings, the new conference rooms are Zoom, right? Zoom, WebEx, these are the new conference rooms, and being able to engage people all across the country in one setting. We think of the birthdays, happy hours. I know we all participated with those on a digital version here on Zoom or in different formats to really be able to engage with family and friends all across the country and still have that live interaction. Buying and renting homes completely virtually, never even stepping foot inside a home. And that happens so often with everything we went through. And medical, right? We look at medical and being able to engage with different types of doctors completely remote, through camera, through digital resources. So I think digital, while it was a huge resource prior to the pandemic, that there's so many more ways that we've been able to engage with people all around, that I think that's absolutely going to continue to be a part of what we do each and every day as individuals, but especially as small businesses.
So Rodney Fong, last question for you. Fourth generation San Franciscan small business owner, commissioner, wax museum guru, and now the CEO of the Chamber. You've been up and down and seen everything San Francisco can throw at a small business community. What's going to stick?
Thank you, David. I think what's consistent of all of us here is the resourcefulness that we were forced into, and to be able to move to partially digitally, to not put all of our eggs in one basket, restaurants doing in person, but also delivery to survive. And I think that resourcefulness, as everyone has said here, that's a learned skill, and we've all been accelerated and forced to make some decisions that were uncomfortable for us. But I think for the most part, those who survived have done incredibly well. And so we all sort of deserve a pat on the back for getting this far, honestly. But I think there's going to be greater opportunities, and we want to thank Bank of America, SF Travel, SF Made, David Perry, yourself for all hanging in there. I think by this panel alone is a good example of collaboration and how we have maybe gotten a little bit smaller, but actually closer in some strange way digitally through Zoom. But I think coming back in person, that collaboration, that friendship, that love and society will yet be even stronger. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much. You know, San Francisco has always been a special and beautiful city geographically. When I moved here, I would fly home to visit my grandma in Richmond, Virginia, and she'd say, "What's so special about it?" And I would just say, San Francisco. It has its own brand. And every time I would land at SFO, I would pop a cassette tape in my Walkman, which also dates me, and play Judy Garland singing San Francisco to welcome me home. It truly is, as President Howard Taft said when he opened the Pan-Pacific Exposition in 1915, the city that knows how, and we will know how to get through this, so keep on keeping on. On behalf of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce, our board, our staff, and all of the many businesses, large and small, our sponsor, Bank of America, I want to thank our panelists today, Kate Sophis from San Francisco Made, Joe D'Alessandro from San Francisco Travel, Kayla Gonzalez from Bank of America, and of course, Rodney Fong, President and CEO of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce. I'm David Eugene Perry. Thanks so much. Ahoy. You know, I love hearing from smart people. That was just amazing. Thank you all for that discussion. And I know that it is really helpful for business owners and decision makers and stakeholders to see what community leaders are thinking about and doing as we head towards our recovery. Small businesses truly are the axle on which our local economy turns. They do make San Francisco the place we want to live, work, and play and build our families. And they bring people to visit us from around the world. And now I wanted to offer some insight to what we can expect to see this week, and we certainly hope that you can join us. This week, we will all have virtual events focused on financial support, legal considerations, diversity, equity and inclusion, advocacy, digital marketing resources, and much more. Also, make sure you save the date, Friday, May 7th at 5:30 p.m. for the ever-popular San Francisco Small Business Networking Mixer at 5:30 p.m. And boy, can't we all wait until that is once again a live event. I have so many memories of those wonderful mixers from years past. Check out sfsmallbusinessweek.com and sfchamber.com for the complete calendar of events. And do make sure you follow Small Business Week and the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce on social media for the latest updates. Tweet, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and you will get a response. And now, what would a special event at the Chamber be without a drawing? So now, for our very exciting opportunity drawing sponsored by Bank of America. 3 lucky winners will be selected at random to receive a special SF Small Business Week gift basket. More importantly, each gift basket was curated to highlight the amazing community of San Francisco small businesses that are either women-owned or minority-owned. Gifts include items from Public Glass, boutiques in the Mission District, and La Cocina. These tokens highlight Bank of America's commitment to building a stronger and more diverse and resilient San Francisco. And the winners are listed here. Congratulations. The San Francisco Chamber team will be reaching out to you directly to get your gift baskets. You know, it's been my great honor and privilege and joy to live and work in San Francisco for 36 years. I met my husband, Alfredo, of 22 years, and now my business partner of 15. I have built friendships here. I built my business here, and I joined the Chamber early, and nothing makes me prouder than to be a member of its board, and especially this year, work with all of my fellow small business people to keep us all keeping on. I want to thank you for joining us today. A very special thank you to our presenting sponsor, Bank of America, and all of our SF Small Business Week sponsors. Thank you to all of today's inspiring speakers, and a special thank you to the woman, the leader, who has kept us safe and is helping us stay economically safe, the one and only Honorable Mayor London N. Breed. Thank you will never be enough for your leading us out of this incredible year and into the great recovery. You know, a lot of progress has been made towards making San Francisco a better place for small business, a great place, a sustainable place. But I think we can all agree that there's still a lot of work to be done. You know, as Tales of the City author Armistead Maupin once said, a longtime chronicler of San Francisco isn't perfect, but at its best, San Francisco can show you what perfect just might look like. We're not perfect, but we're going to keep on working to make it better. On behalf of the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce and all our businesses, thank you for helping us work together so that we can rebuild our great city, truly the city that knows how. Thank you, and ahoy.